Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Lacz Denton LD-9109 Chronograph. This watch is available from Lacz Denton official store on AliExpress for €106. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this basic blue cardboard watch box. One removes the lid. There's a foam protective panel, and the watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel in the base, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping from any damage, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use this basic style of cardboard watch box, bearing in mind it's a low-tier price point piece at only €106. With the watch, one gets this owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams, and the instructions are in English. It also details the operation of the movement use, which is the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. This is the plastic guarantee card, and I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by a 12-month international guarantee. And lastly, one also gets this Lacz Denton branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Lacz Denton LD-9109 Chronograph. We have a 40mm case diameter, we have a 48mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 11.2mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The alligator style leather strap tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push deployant clasp, and as you can see, the deployant clasp is signed to a high standard with the Lacz Denton emblem and also brand logo engraved. Flawless mirror polishing to the 316L grade stainless steel deployant, nice firm resistance to the 2-button push triggers, and both halves of the deployant open with no resistance. Flawless mirror polishing to the top side, underside and flanks, and the centre section is brushed satin finish. I like the firm resistance to the 2-button push triggers, and both halves click closed with a nice positive click. Two keepers on the alligator style strap, as you can see, one's fixed, one slides as one would expect. And the strap is padded, so it's thicker at the spring bar end, and it gradually tapers down in thickness and also in width from the spring bar end down to the 2-button push deployant. Now, it is a stiff strap, but I'm confident that with daily wear it's going to break in and become more soft and supple. It is thinner at the deployant end, so therefore it's more flexible, but at the spring bar end, where it's more padded, it's very stiff, so initially it's going to feel very hard and stiff and require some breaking in. I'll show you the underside to the leather strap. As you can see, perfectly smooth, flawless stitching to the underside, and it's got a nice grained finish to it. And on the other side, it's embossed with genuine leather and 20mm. So plenty of holes in the leather strap to allow for fine tuning the length, and it's easy to adjust the deployant by pulling up the outer body of it and sliding it up and engaging the pin into the required hole. So with regards to the case back, it's a solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, screw down case back, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable for a chronograph, engraved to a good standard with the reference number and specification of the piece, and polished to a flawless mirror finish. So I like the low profile screw down case back. It's very flat and comfortable because of the sterile center section. It feels very smooth against the wrist, so very comfortable to wear for long periods of time. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat Hardlex crystal. Now, this may come as a surprise to you because at this price point, €106, one would usually expect a sapphire crystal, so Hardlex is a clear cost-cutting measure. Really, the use of Hardlex, as per Seiko, is a compromise between using mineral crystal and using sapphire crystal. Hardlex is less expensive. Now, one could argue that Hardlex isn't as scratch resistant as sapphire crystal, but however, because it's heat treated, it is more scratch resistant than mineral crystal, which is untreated. Personally, at this price point, I think it's a disappointment, and I think that they should have used sapphire crystal, and ideally sapphire crystal with AR coating. The problem with this Hardlex crystal is that it doesn't have any AR coating, and if you look when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see it is very shiny, it's highly reflective, and it really does need anti-reflective coating, so that's a major negative of the watch. Now, with regards to the dial layout, I like the symmetry of the two sub-dials at 9 and 3 o'clock respectively. It's a very well balanced dial, and also I like that Lacz Denton haven't over-branded it with unnecessary text or specification. We simply have the Lacz Denton emblem and Lacz Denton logo at 12, and then chronograph at 6, so just the right amount of information. But however, they've made a mistake with this. They've used a white handset, but the applied indices are silver. So there's a clash because the white handset doesn't match the silver indices. They should have used silver baton hands to match the silver indices, or alternatively white baton hands with white indices, as per the Amiga Speedmaster and the homage to it by Pagani Design, the PD-1701. So it doesn't make sense. White hands don't really go with the silver indices, and they really need to rectify this, either changing to silver hands or changing the indices to white. The silver subdials are clearly legible, and I like the detail of them with the Arabic numerals in black. And also the date complication is framed in white. However, I think it would look better with a black date wheel with white Arabic numerals, because that would complement the black dial. The legibility is good. We have the tachymeter scale around the chapter ring, and I think it works very well because one can clearly read the tachymeter scale. But however, when one tilts it at an oblique angle, it's difficult to read the dial and the tachymeter scale due to the lack of AR coating. With regards to the crown, it's a solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished domed cap, and also engraved to high standard with the Lacz Denton brand emblem. But however, it is a push-pull crown rather than a screw-down crown. So the push-pull crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable. But however, this is another cost-cutting measure. At €106, one would expect to see a screw-down crown rather than a push-pull crown. So pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. If you look at the date complication, you can see the Seiko VK64 has a quick set, and one can feel each positive click of the days of the month clicking over. So it's an absolute pleasure to use the quick set date complication. Pulling it out to the second click is the time setting position, and that hacks the movement. Nice firm resistance to the VK64, feels smooth, no backplay clockwise and anti-clockwise, so it's an absolute pleasure to set the time. The movement does hack, so one can hack the second hand to stop the time precisely. Pushing it back in restarts the movement, and the second hand begins to tick around the sub-dial once again. So I like the VK64, it works very well. Let's test the chronograph complication. Pushing the top pusher will activate the chronograph, and you can see the chronograph hand begins to tick around the dial. Nice firm resistance to the pusher. I like there's no play in it. One has to give it a good firm push to activate the chronograph. Pressing the top pusher again stops the chronograph complication. Pressing the lower pusher will make the chronograph hand fly back to the 12 o'clock index on the dial. Perfect alignment, which is to be expected with the Seiko VK64. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse mecha quartz movement. So I like the use of the VK64. It's a very good choice, and it's one of the most reliable mecha quartz movements that Seiko make. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot, and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, both halves of the deployant snap shut with a nice positive click. However, minor criticism is the leather strap is a fraction too short for my 8-inch wrist. For the majority of collectors, this isn't going to be a problem because the strap will be long enough to fit up to a 7-inch wrist. But if you have a 7.5 or 8-inch wrist, you'll see that the leather strap is 1 inch too short. But for the majority of collectors with a 6 to 7-inch wrist, you will be able to engage the end of the leather strap in the two keepers. Now, with regards to comfort level and fit, you can see that it is a very comfortable piece, and it wears very well. Good wrist presence because it's 40mm. Now, something to bear in mind, if you are a collector with a smaller wrist size of 6 to 7 inches, you may find the 40mm wrist presence to be too much. I like its very low profile. It's only 11.2mm, and that is the benefit of using the VK64. It's a low profile mecha quartz movement, and therefore the head of the piece, the case, can be also made low profile with a flat sapphire crystal and flat screw down case back. So anything under 13mm will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts, so it's 11.2. This is a very low profile piece. The proportions are correct because we have a 20mm lug width which perfectly balances the 40mm head of the piece. The lug to lug measurement is 48, which is perfection. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm lug to lug to be the sweet spot, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. So 40 by 48 is perfect with a 20mm lug width, and the taper on the strap from 20 down to 16 is also very good. So really the only negative is the lack of AR coating on the Hardlex crystal, as you can see, because it is very shiny, very reflective, and therefore it's hard to read with the light bouncing off the Hardlex crystal. It's a shame that they didn't use sapphire crystal and use AR coating. Now the other thing is, if they'd used white applied indices rather than silver, that would have made it more legible, because the white baton hands do contrast very well with a matte black dial. But really it's a mismatch, because we've got black hands on the sub-dials, white hands for the main hands, and then silver indices. None of it matches. So there is room for improvement, and I would like to see Lacz Denton release a V2 of this LD-9109 and rectify those defects. But comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time. Very lightweight, it's only 75 grams on the alligator style leather strap, and 75 grams is a very lightweight lack of heft for a 40mm piece. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, we clearly have C3 Luminova rather than C3 Superluminova. This is clearly disappointing. Now, I would prefer to see them use C3 Superluminova, alternatively BGW9 Superluminova, because as you can see, the applied indices only have dots of lume and they're not fully lumed, and therefore it really does fade very quickly on the applied indices. And if you look at the 9 and 3 where the subdials are, you can see that we clearly have a lack of lume on the applied indices, and it really is disappointing. There's good symmetry to the dial, but there's a lack of orientation despite them doing 2 dots of lume at the 12 o'clock double indices on the dial. And I really think there's room for improvement. They should fully lume the applied indices. The baton hands clearly have enough lume on them, but the problem with C3 Luminova is that it just doesn't glow for a long length of time as per Superluminova. So I would like to see them scale up the proportion of the hands and also apply 5 to 6 layers of either C3 Superluminova or BGW9 Superluminova, because as you can see, it's now beginning to fade both on the indices and the baton hands to nothing very quickly. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko VK64 Mecha Quartz. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz movement made in Japan. It has hacking and also quickset complication, which I've demonstrated. The stated accuracy of the VK64 is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. I want you to consider that for a second. That's not plus or minus 20 seconds per day or per week, that is per month. Better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy. This one is running consistently at 0 seconds accuracy, which is perfect accuracy. The battery life of the VK64 is 2 years, and the 2-year battery life is based upon you using the Chronograph complication for 60 minutes per day. However, in reality, you're not going to be using the Chronograph complication for anything like 60 minutes per day, and therefore it's nothing unusual for a VK64 battery to last for 3 to 4 years. So one could potentially buy this piece, wear it daily, and if you don't use the Chronograph for 60 minutes per day, the battery will last for 3 to 4 years, which is excellent. So reliable and accurate movement, no negatives to the VK64 whatsoever. I like it has hacking, I like it has a quick set date, and also 0 seconds per day accuracy is very impressive, and a 3 to 4 year battery life is also outstanding. Correct choice of Chronograph Mecha Quartz movement for this piece. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So €106 is the price point of this piece. It faces stiff opposition from Pagani Design, and that's ironic because Pagani Design make Lacz Denton watches. The PD1644 and also the PD1727 are also Seiko VK64 powered pieces, but however they offer stronger specification because they use sapphire crystal, and they also have a screw down crown and screw down pushers, which is stronger specification. I think that this is okay quality, and I think it's okay value at €106, but however one has to be mindful of the cost cutting measures, the lack of AR coating, the use of hardlex versus sapphire, and also we have the QC issue, or one could call it the build quality issue of white baton hands which clash with the silver applied indices and the black hands on the subdial. So there's room for improvements with a V2. Really, I think the specification needs to be improved to make it good quality and good value at €106. It needs to have screw down crown, it also needs to have sapphire crystal, and really they need to rectify the defect of lack of AR coating. Other than that, the quality of the finishing is good. The bezel, the case and the case back are mirror polished to a good standard, and the quality of the leather strap and also the deployants are done to a good standard. So I'm not going to recommend it to you for your consideration due to the cost-cutting measures, but however, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Lacz Denton LD-9109 chronograph. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.